Welcome to the Metal Prognosis. My name's Lee, and on today's video, we're going to be chatting about the double mic technique when recording guitars. What I thought would be a really cool idea is I'm going to first show you how I used to capture my guitar sounds. And in all my videos, I like to have a bit of a jam too. So on top of that, I'm going to take a bit of a segment from the album Remember Me from my band Shadows at Bay to play along with. So we'll be able to hear it isolated and in a full mix, and then we'll go through and set up the double mic technique and then record that, put them back to back and see the difference between them. And then, well, you can have an assessment to see if this is something really good or if I'm just really overreacting and overthinking how I capture my guitar sounds. So let's head off into the recording room and start miking things up. So here we have our setup on how we're going to capture our guitar recording. So after many years of dealing with other engineers and collaborating projects in different studios, we all kind of approach it the same. There's kind of this unspoken golden rule. So first thing I will do is I would find the speaker. And on this cab, we have a speaker in the top corner here and in the bottom opposite corner here. So we always used to talk about the sweet spot, and every amp does have a sweet spot. So some videos you might see, or studios, they actually use this tape. And to give you a quick example, they might do something like this. So they might go a bit there. This is actually a bit off, but for the purpose of education, they might have a little L shape there. This represents a sweet spot of exactly where they want to put the mic. Actually wasn't that far off, so I'm just going to fix it and move it to about there. That's where I would say the sweet spot is. So we'd get our microphone like this. We would get our 57 and would line it up to the corner. Now, why would we do it to the corner of the speaker or the edge? Because as a general rule, each speaker cone, the closer to the middle is the more high end. And if you bring it closer to the edge, you get more of a low dynamic tone from it. So we're just going to line it up there and get this happening like so. And this is how simple and quickly I would mic up my guitar cab to capture guitars. And take note of it, because when we go back to do the double one, it's a little bit more in depth than this. So this is the extent I would go to capture my guitar. So let's head back in the studio, plug the guitar in and do a playthrough. So we've set up the microphone and I've set up the amp and I've got a nice distortion tone coming out of it. And this is what it sounds like so far. So all I've done is run the microphone straight into my interface and captured it that way. So let's now put it to a full band mix and you can hear what it sounds like. So that was the old way on how I used to capture my guitar tones or recording. So let me run through now the double mic technique. So first thing we do is we move that. We don't need that anymore. So first thing that we need to do is get closer to the actual speakers. That was the first thing that I learned from this. And with this amp, it's really convenient because this comes off. So now we can see the two speakers and move the microphones extremely close. The second thing is each speaker, even though it came from the same manufacturers, made in the same lines, put together in the same unit, they have very different characteristics. So I went through in a different video and I tested them to see what characteristics are different for each of them. So what I found out was this top one here is very bright compared to the lower one here. So what I'm going to do with the double mic technique, is let's utilize those. So first I get my FM 57 and we get it right in the middle here to really capture the brightness of this cone. And as I mentioned before, moving it towards the center of the cone is going to get you brighter. So we're actually doubling up on the brightness here. We've got the brighter mic with the brighter speaker in the brightest position there. And the second thing that we do is we get our 609 microphone and we put that to the darker, for lack of a better term, or lower tone speaker. So we line this one up to the very edge of the cone. Because I've done this setup before a few times, I've got a really good idea on exactly where the microphones need to go for the results that I'm after. So we have the 57 mic here in the middle, the 609 towards the edge, straighten up just a tad, because I'm fussy like that. So that's going to pick up the high ends, that's going to pick up the low ends. So let's go back into the studio now and I'll show you the little trick that we do in there to help utilize the best out of this setup that we have going here. Now back in the control room, let's have a look at what we're actually doing with these microphones here. So we have both microphones going into this little mixing console here. So in channel 1, I have the FM 57 and I have the 609 in running through channel 2. So now let's give you an example of what each microphone sounds like. So here is a 57. So a little bit brighter compared to how we had it mic'd up before. And here, let me put that neutral, is the 609. So as you can hear, it's a lot darker. So that's the combination of the mic placement, the microphone, and well, what speaker we're using, which is also kind of the mic placement. So what we're doing is we have one channel running out of this mixing console into my audio interface. So when I mix these, we get one guitar signal coming out. So we need to commit on what sound we want. So what I do is, let's add a little bit of the high end. A little bit more. Add some low end. Let's add more low end. A little bit more low end. A little bit more low end. I need to put on neutral. So when I say put on neutral, I mean put it at 12 o'clock, so straight up. Let's get a little bit more bite. So I use the term bite referring to the top end because we add that in. Add a little bit more bite. Let's neutral it. So let's add a little bit more top end just to see what it sounds like. Yeah, so let's get a little bit more muddy there, so I'll bring that back. Add a little bit more bottom end maybe. I'm going to roll that back. And I roll that back because your initial thought might be like, wow, that sounds really better with more low end in it, a little bit more punch and a little bit more body. But we've got to keep in mind, because we're playing this to a band mix, we're going to have all the low dynamics and sounds of the drums and the bass guitar. And we've got to find that nice, comfortable slot for the guitar. So yeah, I'm just actually going to leave them both on neutral. Yeah, I'm really liking that. So let's now record this with the full band, and then we can compare it with the previous one I did. Yes, hello Piper. And there is an example of the two mic technique for recording guitars. I always found it really interesting whenever you try blend the two to find how much of the lower rich dynamics you want in it and how much dynamic bite that you really want to put through it. So for example, I always say the 609 is that low, nice coat, and the 57 being that bite, how much bite and cut through do I really want with my guitar tone. And that's why I end up doing it. Oh, hey Piper. So more importantly, what are your thoughts on the matter? Did you think that I was overreacting a little bit, adding this mic and opening up the mesh from the keb to get the mics closer, or was it actually really worth it? So definitely keen to hear your feedback on the matter. Now, this is by means nowhere near the only ways to capture a guitar tone. There are countless numbers of ways you can attempt it and try it, and plenty of producers have really pushed the limits on how to get the best tones possible from the guitarist's equipment. This is just two ways that I've done it. One more recent that I've just discovered, and one that I've been doing for years with many other different engineers as well. And even though I've only discovered the two mic technique recently, I've been reading lots of articles and listening to interviews from other producers that have been doing it as early as the 70s. For example, producers that have done the Black Sabbath albums and Iron Maiden and other classic albums that we grew up and loved. But what are your thoughts on the two different techniques? Did one stand out more than the other? Was I just talking too much crap and the results didn't really show that much difference? Please let us know in the comments below. Like always, I always appreciate your company through these conversations, whether it be in the foreground or the background. Thank you very much for joining me, and until next time, stay safe.